Decade after decade, various strange artifacts have been found in mountains in China during numerous excavations. Among these strange artifacts, bones have been found that do not belong to any animal known to humanity to this day, nor to dinosaurs. Human bodies thousands of years old, with skin and flesh still intact. One of the scientists involved in these excavations is Professor Yang Xiaolin, who in 1978 inaugurated Department 749 in the Kunlun Mountains, leading a special team dedicated specifically to unraveling the secrets behind all these strange discoveries. A year later, in 1979, we meet Hubai, who was one of many soldiers hard at work in the mountain excavations. The work is exhausting, and he frequently faints from sheer fatigue, but a young woman named Yang Ping, the nurse of the worker group, appears at that moment and helps him. She is the daughter of Professor Yang Xiaolin. Hubai meets her at this moment, but says he feels as if he has known her for a long time. The two share a bond that seems to make their friend Sang Sun somewhat jealous. Next, we see the team removing from one of the excavation tunnels yet another giant skull they have found from some previously unknown beast. Hubai tries to approach it with curiosity, but is stopped by one of the guards. Suddenly, the cave begins to shake and explodes out of nowhere, creating a destructive shockwave that sweeps everything in its path, devastating the entire workplace. The soldiers, led by Officer Hank, prepare to fight, but the only ones who exit the cave are Professor Yang and a few workers. However, this incident is not a total loss, as an alternate path opens up within the mountain, so they will send a special team to accompany Professor Yang in the investigation. Yang Ping immediately volunteers to help her father, and this makes Hubai also instantaneously offer himself, which in turn makes Sang Sun want to go as well, along with several other men who also volunteered. The team enters the cave and follows the discovered path until they encounter an abyss that they begin to climb while observing a butterfly-like creature flying around them. After a while, they reach an ice platform with a deep fissure in the middle, then descend through it until they find an unexplored cave filled with strange fossils. After wandering for a while, they find an exit where there is a cliff and several mountains, with one larger mountain standing out among the rest. There, Professor Yang tells Hubai that legends say that somewhere in this area is the door to an ancient kingdom belonging to a secret government. However, their conversation is interrupted when the other soldiers inform them of a very important discovery, a giant footprint in the snow. While Hank and the rest of the team finish installing a door at the entrance of the mountain, Professor Yang and his men begin to follow the trail of footprints to find the beast that left them, which is actually nearby, but they do not notice it as it camouflages itself in the mountains. Further ahead, the creatures they first encounter are the small flying beings from the cave, but upon closer inspection, they realize that they do not resemble butterflies, but rather a strange type of bat. Nothing happens when one of them lands on Yang Ping's arm, but when the professor sees one up close, he notices that the creature changes color and seems to attack him. But quickly, one of the soldiers grabs it with his hand, proving to be a mistake. Then it starts burning with a blue flame at an alarming speed until nothing remains but its bones. Soon, they are surrounded by these bats, and the soldiers begin to shoot to scare them away, but end up losing some men to the blue fire. In any case, all that gunfire makes the giant beast leave, and its sudden change of direction provokes a snow avalanche. This causes the team to run down the mountain for their lives, while the snow engulfs many of the soldiers left behind. However, a point is reached where they cannot continue as there is an abyss in front of them. They have no choice but to jump, but before that, Professor Yang ties Hubai and his daughter together. The pair falls, but the rope gets stuck on a piece of ice, and after moving back and forth a few times, the friction causes the rope to snap, and they fall. When he wakes up at the bottom of the abyss, only 4 members of the team remain: Yang Ping, Hubai, Professor Yang, and Sang Sun. After recovering as many supplies as possible, the now greatly reduced team lights some torches and continues their exploration. They come across a huge cave with a tall tower in the middle, surrounded by ruins of buildings that Professor Yang calls the Sacred Palace of Kulin. The tower is said to have 9 stories where demonic creatures were sealed, and this is what Professor Yang has been searching for all along. He kneels in reverence and lights a candle that sits on some sort of altar, creating a high flame that causes a cloud of bats to appear and surround the tower with a red glow. Professor Yang believes that Hubei and his daughter can open the door to the tower, so he sends them, and as they enter hand in hand, the professor's theory proves true as the door opens and begins to glow, while a light appears at the top of the tower, invoking a series of spirits that fill the environment. But all of this suddenly disappears when Sang-sun hysterically blows out the candle, disliking the idea of opening and tampering with something called a demon. The cave begins to collapse, so the group rushes out before they are caught by rocks or by the bats, which are now chasing them. Sang-sun sacrifices himself and stays behind as bait, being killed by the blue fire of the bats, but killing many of them when his body explodes. There is still a cloud of bats free, and they pursue the remaining trio, who at least manage to keep a certain distance from them. They find an exit, but they cannot go far as it leads to a very high ledge behind a waterfall. The bats catch up to them, and while Hubei tries to scare them away with a torch, they manage to bite him and start a fire on his shoulder. Yang Ping pushes him over the ledge, causing him to fall into the water and extinguish the flames, and she and her father quickly follow him. Yang Ping goes under the water, but is quickly separated by another giant creature, resembling a dinosaur that captures her in its mouth and takes her away. Devastated, Hubei swims out and returns to base in freezing temperatures. The burn on his shoulder is treated, while Officer Hank tells him that they found all the bodies from the expedition except for Yang Ping and her father, so Hubei is the only survivor. He decides to abandon this life and go home, but during the train ride, he continues imagining that Sang-sun is there with him and his fellow soldiers singing, but becomes disappointed to see that it is just an illusion, that in fact, they are all dead. Hubei gets off at a train station near the field and is picked up by his new employer, Mr. Wang, unaware that Officer Hank and a scientist named Qin Dong are looking for him. The year is now 1982, and Hubei begins working in Mr. Wang's library, which provides him with a peaceful life. When they go to lunch together, Mr. Wang takes him to a local restaurant where Hubei is shocked to reunite with a childhood friend named Wang Kaishin, who works there with the local band entertaining customers. Hubei suspects that Mr. Wang brought him there on purpose. While working in the library, Hubei finds a book from Professor Yang's research, which includes an illustration of the Demon Tower, making him realize that opening it has always been the professor's goal, and that he always knew Hubei and Yang Ping could do it, which is why he tried to keep them safe together. Meanwhile, at Department 749, explorers find a coffin with a living woman inside who bears a striking resemblance to Yang Ping, but she remembers nothing about herself, so they give her the name Shirley. She is kept locked up and under constant watch while receiving treatment. Returning to Hubei, he continues receiving books from Professor Yang in the library with specific pages marked for him. With this support, he becomes obsessed with these legends and spends months studying them, helping him understand the true story behind them. He discovers that there was a humanoid race from the demon world whose ancestors came from Saturn. They are the successors of both demons and humans, and the tower is their legacy. Supposedly, there should have been guardians protecting the tower, but 10,000 years ago, this race disappeared from Earth because humans finally freed themselves from the control of demons. There are still some questions he cannot find answers to, such as why he and Yang Ping could open the tower, why the professor wanted to open it in the first place, and who keeps sending all these books. 3 years later, in 1985, Officer Hank is shocked to learn that his team found Professor Yang alive in the mountains, hidden inside a cave. Meanwhile, in western China, the oil city is attacked by terrible and mysterious creatures. They destroy everything in their path, leaving only ruins behind. Professor Yang tells Hank that this must be the consequence of the tower being opened, so he goes to the area to investigate. This incident seems to have some effect on Hubei's shoulder scar, which begins to bother him frequently, and his visit to the doctor places him in the system, revealing his location to Officer Hank. One afternoon, the pain in Hubei's shoulder becomes so intense that it suddenly ignites a fire on his back, and he begins to display some kind of power, causing all the furniture in the library to float. Mr. Wang appears treating this as if it were perfectly natural and explains that, due to the bat attack, Hubei's blood has been contaminated by a demonic force that now grants him powers, but may also drag him into hell. Hubei does not understand how Mr. Wang knows all this, so he uses his own powers to transform the library into an ancient tomb and reveals that he is the protector of the Prince of Soul and Nation. He explains that there are also guardian spirits there, just like there were in the tower, including Sang Soon. Wang explains that the prince was Hubei's predecessor, and that he led humanity against the technologically advanced alien demon race that ruled the Earth. The prince used his own body to seal the tower, and most demons left the planet, although some of them have hidden and taken human form, even marrying humans. They want Hubei because, as a descendant, he is the only one who can open the tower and release the demons again. Meanwhile, at Department 749, Officer Hank is furious to discover that his team lost Professor Yang. But a sudden piece of news shifts his mood for the better. Shirley has awakened and claims to have regained her memories, so she wants to search for her father along with Hubei. Hank travels to the library to recruit him, but Hubei refuses to go back into action after witnessing so much death on the last mission. However, he quickly changes his mind upon learning about Yang Ping, who now identifies as Shirley, as he misses her dearly. Wang thinks it is a bad idea for him to go, as the demons want to capture him to reopen the tower, but Hubei wants to understand how Yang Ping came back to life, and now the spirits of the beasts are also attacking the prince's tomb, so something needs to be done at the site. Hubei leaves the library with Kaixin, who wishes to help. They travel to northern China, where they meet the team that will search for the professor. Dong, a woman named Wei Wei, a group of soldiers, and, of course, Shirley. Hubei can hardly contain his excitement at seeing her again, but while she remembers his name, she acts coldly towards him and insists on being called Shirley instead of Yang Ping. Later, the group makes a journey through the desert using camels. After a few peaceful days, they suddenly encounter a fierce sandstorm and quickly flee to leave it behind. They run and strangely pass through some kind of barrier without noticing, which is the only reason the sandstorm does not follow them anymore, keeping it at bay while they enter the ruins of the oil city. As soon as they dismount in a safe area, they realize they have lost some men during the escape, including Kaixin. He and 3 other men were left behind in the middle of the desert with only 1 camel, so they try to reach a well they saw in the distance, when they are attacked by a demon creature resembling a werewolf that walks in daylight. They split up while fleeing, and the demon kills one of the soldiers. The remaining group reaches the location of the well, only to find a second monster there. It kills another man, leaving only Kaixin and a friend who find a bicycle and head towards the oil city to reunite with the rest of the team, who have been exploring the surroundings and found only ruins and corpses. Upon hearing about the demons, Hubei wants to leave to avoid another massacre like what happened last time in the mountains. But Dong and Shirley want to stay and complete the mission. There is no time to discuss this, as creatures find them and the team must prepare to fight. They arm themselves and shoot the first monster that jumps out from behind a bus to attack them. They seemingly manage to kill the creature, and thinking they have succeeded, they pursue the second one that quickly appears. The monster leaps from side to side, almost watching them while the team watches back, fascinated. The monster then takes a big leap and moves away. At that moment, Shirley runs off and enters an abandoned school, closely followed by Hubei. Meanwhile, the rest of the team discovers that the first werewolf they killed is no longer there. Inside the school, where Shirley and Hubei have entered, he sees several bodies hanging from the ceiling and a hole in the ground. He enters the hole and finds a tunnel that leads to some kind of tomb. There is a monster there as well, which pushes Hubei and injures him. But before it can kill him, Shirley appears and tames the monster, making it leave. She then uses her powers to levitate Hubei's unconscious body to the inside of the coffin, which she closes before leaving. Back in the city, more creatures arrive and seem to be scenting the team, which hides on the upper floors of buildings to shoot with silver bullets and long-range rockets. They manage to hit some of them, but most of the werewolves dodge the attacks and climb the buildings, capturing some of the team members who have no chance. Wei Wei manages to hide in a small destroyed store, followed in by one of the creatures. She avoids being found by pretending to be a mannequin. However, when she tries to take a picture, she makes a noise, immediately attracting the monster's attention, which begins to chase her. She runs for her life and manages to get into a bus with Kaixin, while they do their best to survive the constant attacks the monster launches against the bus. Hubei wakes up inside the coffin and is desperate to get out, but realizes that something magical is happening. His wounds are closing and healing at an incredible speed. The spirit of Mr. Wang appears before him, saying that the coffin will help the prince come back to life. Then, Bai finds himself falling into darkness and appears before the tower. There, he finally discovers what happened to young Ping. The beast that captured her took her to the cave and threw her into the fire, burning her body and making her suitable for the demon queen to possess. Now, at this moment, Shirley is controlling the creatures and releasing them into the city. After the beast disappears, Bai approaches the tower to speak with the spirit of the queen, discovering that Yang Ping was the other person who could open the door, as she is his descendant. The demon queen refuses to relinquish Yang Ping's body and points out that killing her would also kill her. Bai then vows to find a way to free Yang Ping. Laughing at him for this, the queen sends him back to the city, finding the monster attacking the bus to reach Kaixin and Wei Wei. Bai quickly eliminates the monster to free his friends, but can do nothing for Xindong, who is hanging off the edge of a rooftop, almost being captured. One of the monsters attacks Bai, throwing Kaixin and Wei Wei aside, but Shirley, needing Bai to open the tower door, jumps in his defense, throwing a car at one of the monsters to push them back. Those still attacking their friends are close and ready to eliminate them. Xindong even points his weapon at his own head, choosing his own death rather than letting a demon do it. But at that moment, Bai looks into Shirley's eyes and realizes that he will never have Yang Ping back, so he shoots her 3 times, causing all the demons to disintegrate and the tower to collapse. Admitting that Bai is the only one with the power to kill her, Shirley kisses him before passing out and reverting back to Yang Ping. Crying over her death, Yang Ping suddenly speaks and expresses how happy she is to see him once again. Bai carries her body and takes her to the prince's coffin, hoping to heal her. He lies down with her inside the coffin, and as he touches his forehead to hers, he has a vision of her memories. Yang Ping had powers since childhood, including the ability to bring animals back to life, but her mother did not allow her to use them. It was only when she saw her mother burning in blue flames that she understood that her mother was a descendant of demons who took human form and married ordinary people. Thus, when they reached a certain age, they suddenly died this way in blue flames. This is why Professor Yang researched the tower throughout his life. He hoped to save his daughter from the fate that awaited her as well. Back in the cave, the only reason they survived the fall was that Yang Ping used her powers to revive them. Before the connection ends, Yang Ping tells Bai that she loves him and asks him not to give up on finding her father. Bai respects this wish and leaves the desert with his team on camels, ready to continue the search, while a huge beast watches them from afar, indicating that the adventure is not over yet.